Welcome to the Pricing for the Planet week. It's day 4, and today we will talk about the green premium concept. With me today, I'm super lucky because I have 3 key experts in this field, so I think the discussion will be extremely interesting. So maybe at the way to start this conversation, I will ask you to maybe introduce yourself, give us kind of like key information and background about your experience, the company you are working for, and then we will kick off the discussion. Do you want to start, Aurélie?
Yes, with pleasure. So I'm Aurélie. I'm working for PricingHub. PricingHub is a SaaS pricing optimization tool, and it has been created for the retail sector. We're also working with the e-commerce. And our innovation is using artificial intelligence to optimize the prices of a product catalog to meet each company objectives, so protect the margins, boost the revenues, and maximize the sales.
Perfect. Gabriel, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Gabriel de Malleray. I'm Director of Sustainability for Schneider Electric France. My role is mostly to support our businesses in France to understand what sustainability means for our clients and our markets, and to make it a lever for differentiation, increased specification, and value creation.
And then Nicolas.
Yes, and I'm Nicolas Manuelli. I'm a managing director and a partner at Boston Consulting Group. I've joined BCG 11 years ago, and I've been working for pricing in B2B environment for the past 6 years. So my role is to work with a large panel of companies in B2B, B2B2C, both from industrial goods but also services on pricing topic, and working with them on their strategy, working with them on implementation as well. So quite a wide variety of topics that we work together, including sustainability, a very important one that we will discuss today.
And maybe I will use this time to again say a big thank you, because we have 4 major sponsors for the Pricing for the Planet week. We have Directeur, we have Synchron, but we have PricingHub, and we have BCG. And actually good transition, because we've worked with BCG for actually a long time now. And I think we talked a lot about this concept of green premium. Nicolas, you were with us last year at our annual summit. So again, a huge thank you. We talked about like the green quandary, the green premium. For the audience, can you kind of like explain what is behind all those concepts and what are the new trends around that?
Exactly. So I think the concept is actually quite interesting because it's moving very fast with the perception of sustainability in our society. I would say that when we started to look at this concept of green premium, it was like 5-6 years ago. And the concept was really nascent, and it was about the idea of putting a premium for a green product just because people will be willing to pay for a greener product, for a more sustainable one. So we looked into it. We tried with several clients to actually develop this concept of pushing that to the final customer in B2B, but also in B2B2C environment. And we quickly found out that nevertheless, in most of the case, people are not willing to pay for this sustainability attribute of the product. We've made, like in 2022, a very wide study for a large panel of groups of people, but also for very various type of goods. And what we found out is between 1 and 7% of the people are actually willing to pay a premium for a more sustainable product, and the magnitude of the green premium is actually very low. So it's represented an opportunity, tactical opportunity in some cases, for a very targeted group of people or very targeted goods, but nothing major that really can contribute to what we called green premium at that time. So the idea of really charging more for the green attribute. Nevertheless, what we have found, and the evolution of the concept that we are not moving toward, is more something around how do we link to the value-based pricing, which is more a typical approach. The sustainability attribute being a value attribute of the product that we can price. Very concretely, what does it mean? It means that very often we are changing a bit the equation, moving to a total cost of ownership, so a TCO kind of equation, where sustainability is usually an attribute that can help the customer save on the total cost of ownership. It's particularly true, for instance, on building material, where you can quickly save energy costs through building materials, and then the total cost of ownership can allow you to pass and to charge more pricing, because actually your customer, whether it's B2B or B2C, will actually save some money at the end. So you can share the value created with the customer. So I think the evolution is very interesting from the different years that we worked on this concept. It's a moving concept. I think that it's also moving fast. It's moving differently from one industry to another. So it requires quite a lot of adaptation here and there. And I think the consumers are also evolving very fast. So it's up to us to really cope with those expectations and understand what are the attributes that we can really work on with them. But at the end, I think that the stakes are high, and we all want to promote more sustainability within companies and within our product portfolio. So we all work toward the same goal.
Did you see, Nicolas, some companies tapping into this, additional source of, additional profit to finance and fuel this, new cost of building a sustainability team or building sustainable product or services? Yeah,
I think that's very important for companies to really make sustainability not a cost part, but also a profitable part. And so this concept of green premium, usually we start with that within companies to go with more tactical approach, because you can charge sometimes a bit of more a price premium, but it will be very targeted. It will be reduced, but it can help you fund the journey towards a more sustainable organization, sustainable investment. So it's still very interesting to look at those tactical opportunities, but to really trigger change within the company and for your overall product portfolio, we really need to change the mindset, to change the scale as well, and look ahead, not tactical, but more strategic.
Super interesting. And I think that would be a good question for you, Gabriel, because I think Nicolas mentioned this concept of using sustainability in value-based pricing. Is it something that you did at Schneider Electric?
So, at Schneider Electric, we've been working on sustainability for a long time. So we can say we're pretty convinced of the value that it can generate overall for our company, starting with our shareholders and the increasing amount of ESG ratings in which we are. And we've demonstrated that it gives us an access to funding. It gives us a reputation and a brand image that is valuable. Now, when it comes to translating this in actual green price premium, I totally agree with Nicolas. We're not there yet. But I think what's changing is that we see an increasing amount of, let's call them sustainability attributes, that are effectively generating more and more tangible value for our customers. And there we start having an opportunity to either use these attributes as levers for differentiation. So, win against our competitors, win market share, and in some cases, an ability to price up. But that's when it would be very direct. So typically, when we are introducing some renewable, or let's call them green materials to make it simple, like green steel or such things, and we have an ability to track that and price up. But it's more, it's pricing for the value that it generates for our customers, and it's also a translation of the additional cost that it has for us. So a way to sustain profitability.
Would you mind maybe zooming in a very interesting thing that you've done? And we did a lot of webinars with your team around that. If I'm not mistaken, your circular business line or product line, you took the decision to put it at the same price as the new products.
Yes.
Right? And it's very interesting because now for you, it's obvious, but I think for the vast majority of the audience, if I'm asking if any of you have the choice, you have, a brand new product and you have kind of like a remanufactured line or like a second life type of product, everybody would say, oh yeah, it should be cheaper. Yeah. So I really value your opinion and your experience, because I think it was a bold decision, but it was a smart decision.
Yeah. So, well, once you get into the details, it becomes pretty natural. Yeah. I think the initial reaction of circular equals secondhand equals lower price comes from basically the legacy of what is circularity, which is basically reselling stuff that's already been used. It's not, let's say, our vision of circularity at Schneider Electric, and it's not the reason why we're doing it. Basically, we need to think about our starting and growing circular activities as a way to progressively move from a very linear supply chain where we're going and taking primary raw material and then manufacturing them into components and then into products. So moving away from this very linear way to work to a supply chain that is gradually able to integrate secondary inputs, could be recycled raw materials, but it's also increasingly remanufactured parts and even remanufactured products into our supply chain. So currently, these products have to be labeled as circular because we need to. There needs to be an evolution in a regulation in the way that these processes are evaluated by the market. But eventually, our vision, and this is already the case, these products, when they come out of our factories, remanufactured, they undergo the same levels of tests in and out. So the level of guarantee is the same as for new products, which is why there's no reason for us to price them below, because eventually, and I'm talking maybe in 10, 20 years from now, everything that comes out of Schneider is not new, but it's just made of different levels of circular inputs in our supply chains. Second reason is that, so we're not there yet. So we have this circular business, and we basically need to kick it off. And depending on the product lines, but basically when we're taking energized material and putting it back in our supply chain, we need to set up brand new product lines dedicated to remanufacturing. And while we need to achieve scale, sometimes we're not at the levels of profitability which are sustainable for us. And that is why we just can't, price it lower, because it's not the appropriate economic equation. So for all of these reasons, we have products that have the same level of warranty as new products, and so we have no reasons to underprice them. It's not secondhand.
And funny enough, I was having a conversation with a contractor, and he mentioned, Schneider Electric. So of course I jumped in the discussion, and he was telling me like now there is a regulation, and you have a CO2 target. And he was telling me like, yeah, I'm more than happy to pay actually the same price, because that's my edge between having the right to construct or losing, this right to construct, because I will create too much CO2, and then I cannot work. So it was like, yeah, I'm glad Schneider Electric did that, because it's a huge value for the contractor.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So, and it's to Nicolas' point. I think we need to kind of come out of this thing where it's sustainable, we can price up. We need to be very precise about what additional values it brings to a given market. And the good news is that sustainability and its specific attributes are bringing additional values to an increasing number of markets for several reasons. On B2C cases, for the potentially growing but small part of consumers that want to buy sustainable products is because they just care about the environment, but also about their health and things like that. For this contractor, it's because there's a regulation on new buildings in France that requires you, if you want to obtain your permit, to have a building's embodied emissions that remains below some regulatory thresholds that are gradually decreasing. As a matter of fact, let's say circular products are a little bit subsidized because by convention they have a zero GHG emission value. So it's wrong, but it's a kind of subsidy, which is why it's a true enabler for contractors and for the whole real estate industry in order to make sure that they are able to construct, that to have low carbon products, and circular products are part of these. In that case, we're not necessarily pricing up, but this is an enabler for us to access a new market, to make deals happen, because we're able to provide, let's say, decent share of circular products for our customers.
Super interesting. And what I'm hearing from your point and from Nicolas' point, it's like it's tough. I mean, like figuring out the price is very tough. And I think I will lean toward you, Aurélie. Maybe can you share maybe how PricingHub is helping companies to get a better sense of what pricing to charge, what price to use, like how to manage like pricing premium, green premium, like what? Yeah. Where can they start?
Right now, like with the retailer we're working with, none of them are doing green premium with us. But theoretically, we thought about it, and we know that with the different approach that we have, we're able to price the green premium. And so to do that, we have two main different approaches. The first one is based on historical data analysis. So what we do is that we analyze past sales data at the SKU level to estimate the price elasticity. And so once we have the price sensitivity, we analyze it and everything. But the main problem with the historical data is that it has a lot of limitation, such as influence of factors like promotions, seasonal events like Easter or Christmas and stuff like that. And so those kind of trends are very noisy on the prices. And so as a result, it's really hard to have significant result and interpretation. And so we have developed, not we, but we are also working on another approach that is more reliable. And we've seen the results on the prices of our on the results of our clients is the experimentation approach, and so it's a more precise and contextual method that involves running pricing experiments. So we are testing various price points in control scenarios. In order to build a more accurate elasticity model. This approach is also lets you experiment how you want to display your green premium, for example. So you can try to include different messaging and try higher price and lower price, and you're going to see how the environment and the clients are going to respond to it. And so such testing can reveal not only how customers are responding only to the price, but also on how you want to communicate on it.
Super clear. And yes, it's tough. And maybe to come back on your point, Nicolas, it's so this event is called like sustainability, where to start and what to do. What would be your advice? Other than hiring, smart people from BCG, no, which is a great approach, by the way. But
I think the idea that we have is how to find a sustainable model for sustainability. Like, how do we make it really concrete? And to do that, our conviction is you need to be able to talk to your CFO with, a profitable equation that makes sense for the company on sustainability. Otherwise, it will be only on-the-spot initiative. Nothing will really change out there until you really make a difference from a profitability perspective. Of course, you can rely on regulation. Regulation is moving in some fields. Sometimes companies that rely too much on regulation to move face this regulation wall very late in their process, and we can name now the auto industries facing, like for next year, a regulation that they knew were coming, but they are in front of how can I make sustainability when I need to sell for 4 cars with an IC engine, I need to sell 1 electric engine, and the demand is not there, my product is not there, so it becomes very, very tricky. And right now they are just discussing internally whether they need to reduce their sales of IC or boost with a lot of promotion electric vehicles, damaging residual value on the long term. So those are difficult times for a company. So we would really advise to take advance from the regulation and not expect too much from it from a business perspective. So I think when it comes to profitability and sustainability, our conviction, and I shared it in my introduction, is there's no magical wand for tactical moves that really can change the needle significantly. It can help. It can help fund the journey with tactical move here and there, with opportunities. But then when it comes to sustainability, it needs more time to really put into place. So it requires a long-term view from a strategy perspective. And this is where pricing can really help, because pricing will be a key enabler of this profitability. So for me, sustainability is a great opportunity for pricing to have a seat at the table at a more strategic level. And my conviction is really that it is the key here. Mm-hmm. And how does that really can contribute very concretely? So I think there are 3 different ways of looking at it. The first way is from your own product portfolio. How do you steer your mix toward your sustainability environment? And once you have a vision of what the future will look like, what do you want your product portfolio look like in 5, 10 years' time, you can really manage it effectively through pricing. You can increase pricing of non-sustainable product, maybe allowing you with more margin in a short period of time to fund the journey elsewhere, but it needs conviction that the target's worth it, and pricing can really support you to do the good arbitrage on the journey to maximize the value out there. That's the first way of looking at it. The second, and I think you mentioned it very easily, is sustainability also requires change of the environment, and it requires innovation. It's not sustainability. You don't have like sustainable product, non-sustainable product. Sometimes you need to invest into more sustainable products, and it requires, especially when it comes to circularity, to a full ecosystem. So by design, you need to build this ecosystem, and this has a cost. But it is a key enabler to trigger more sustainable product in the long term. So how can I price such an innovation, such a premium of my costs, not price, in a short period of time? And then we worked very closely with company, quite recently in a circular PET, for instance, where the ecosystem needs a lot of work to be done, and the economic equation cannot be compared to regular product. Otherwise, it's not working. So we worked together with clients, actually, with B2B clients, on what does it mean for them? How can we change the deal with them, engaging more closely in our approach, engaging differently, but also from them engaging with us into a price premium in the short term, into off-take agreements to allow the ecosystem to build on a long-term basis, and giving them access to something that's going to be scarce for some time as well. So it's a deal that we do with some advanced companies and really can trigger this change, but it will be key to have this unlock, and that's very very key in some industries. Right now, it starts with raw material, especially PET, especially for green steel, for instance. So those type of environment are moving, but I'm pretty sure we can apply the same components elsewhere. Come back to automotive industry. Today we have seen in some very advanced battery technology, OEM supplier being able to pay like a huge premium, committing themselves on 10 years time off-take agreements with large volume, just to allow the ecosystem to be built, to allow the factories to be invested in, and so on. And this is the way we should see a green premium when in terms of innovation, and finding the right partner that are ready to invest with you on a more long-term basis. The third one is new business models. And I think when it comes to value-based pricing, if you look at total cost of ownership and so on, then it questions the way you make money, and where how you should change it to a more, I would say, total cost of ownership oriented business model with, for instance, renting We talk a lot about leasing in the car industry, and allow me to go on the car from end to end, but we talk a lot about the leasing part. So, being able to lease not one time, but 2 times, 3 times, 4 times until the end of life of my car, and take into account, the recyclability of the car at the end and so on. So giving you a full overview of the product and how do I maximize the value out of this product from a company perspective. And I think that also is a trigger, because when you are a car manufacturer and you are not only taking the value out of the sales process, but across the lifetime of your value, suddenly the economic equation changes and allow you to the good arbitrage that makes sense as well in terms of sustainability. So I think those are the 3 topics: steering your product mix, invest in innovation through the right partner with the right economic equation, and changing your business models. Those are 3 track journeys that are not easy, for sure. It requires a lot of change. This is why having the strategic mindset is super key. But for us, it can really make a difference. And it can also, for the company that are taking this step first, a huge competitive advantage in the future environment. Because at some point, the market will evolve, the regulation will evolve, and the first mover will be the one steering the change, not being at the long tail.
Perfect. And Gabriel, same kind of question, especially for you, because you are so advanced compared to peers on this space. If you have to do it again, what would you change and how would you do it differently?
Well, I didn't just do it myself, so I don't want to sound like I'm redoing people's work.
Don't underestimate your role, Gabriel.
Well, honestly, I think it was pretty well done. I think it has to start somewhere, and at Schneider Electric, it started with the vision and the conviction of our CEO that sustainability was the right thing to do, and that was 20 years ago. That was before we started to even think of how can this connect to value and price and everything. So you have to start somewhere, and I think today it has a value to have strong culture. It has a certain attractivity to people and employees, and it generates an engagement. So, and at that time, I guess it did as well. So it's important to start with values, and then it's important to set concrete targets. That's what we did a long time ago, and start delivering on them. Now, when it comes to fast forward, let's say 15, 18 years, when it comes to started to demonstrate that it is effectively generating financial value, this is where we're starting to be at the moment. When I was saying, okay, we're not exactly pricing a premium, but we know we start winning more thanks to sustainability. Now you need to be very precise in what value you're offering to your market. And the way that you're going to be able to do this is through data. So what we're seeing is we're moving from, let's say, in our commercial relations with typically contractors. So they're big clients for us. They have made voluntary commitments to basically decarbonize their activities. They are also subject to demanding regulations. So they have some pressure to go more into sustainability and to, actually move into real action. So that is basically sourcing sustainable products and delivering sustainable buildings and projects. If we want to basically move from, we're a sustainable company, deal with us, to we have sustainable products and solutions by them, we need to have the underlying data that enables us to prove what we're saying. And that is easier said. It's not really easily done, because it, at least for us, it requires rethinking all our data production and architectures and systems in order to embed a multitude of new KPIs and make them, let's say, digestible enough for our whole commercial organization to be able to push them to our clients. So data and then training, skills, education, and communication. Because, and I'm very impressed. So I've been in sustainability for a long time. When I started, not every company had sustainability people. And then gradually they started to basically become more and more frequent and present in companies. And I've really seen a change when I started to talk product sustainability, life cycle analysis, no longer with only sustainability people, but procurement people. So that's when you realize that, okay, it's becoming a driver for procurement, because I'm actually talking to someone in procurement who may be more knowledgeable about eco-design, product sustainability than a lot of corporate sustainability people. So, but yeah, the only way to make it happen then is to be able to demonstrate that the value you are claiming on your product is actually true and tangible.
And I love the idea of, the procurement side being more sustainable, because in front of the procurement side somewhere there is a pricer that is trying to sell a product. And if the procurement side is taking into account sustainable criteria attributes, it means that for the other parts, the pricing attribute of the sustainability attribute can be unlocked also on the pricing topic. So things that are moving here and there. And I totally agree with you on the data set. I think that being sustainable requires also tracking to be able to really measure, but also prove your value attributes on sustainability. And it's been more and more the case now that people are requiring transparency on it. And providing this transparency is not easy. It's not easy because it involves not only your own ecosystem, your supply chain, your manufacturing, and so on, but also it requires your own ecosystem of suppliers and so on. So tracking that requires a lot of integration along the value chain. It requires a lot of effort as well, and it's becoming more and more important in the value attribute that you are selling to your customer. And this is a key part, and especially when it comes to circularity, because proving the CO2, people are always thinking about CO2, which is a good metric, which is very complex but relatively simple to retrack when we compare to circular. What is circular, when, how much, what proportion, and so on. So all that is a key element to trigger this sustainability measurement. Regulation is working on it, obviously, but for companies, it's a key challenge.
Aurélie, same question. What would be your advice?
My advice would be, I think I have a bit of, not a different point of view, but a point of view from the retail sector. And I think right now the retail sector is not as mature as the one you're working with or working in. Right now, the retailer has been facing difficulties with inflation and Brexit and COVID and everything. And right now, it's recovering, and a lot of things are moving, and you have all the impact of Amazon and all the big e-commerce that is coming. And so they are not yet ready to green premium everything because they are trying to recover. So I think it's something that is coming from the inside, where people are starting to talk about it, are trying to put it in the strategy, but yet it has not been done. What is sure, 100%, is that the day it's going to happen, they will need to use data, 100% sure, to measure, to track, and that what we know that using data, you can optimize your prices the best way you can. You can add green premium in, you can add price sensitivity, you can add a lot of things. What is even more important for retailers right now is the ROI of everything. And so I think it's going to be a mix of what is going to be my ROI and how I'm going to be communicating on my green premium. Because if they do not communicate correctly and they just increase the prices on products that are where the willingness to pay is not here, it's not going to work and it's going to be a big fail. So I think we all agree, but I'm maybe a step behind you in terms of maturity of sector.
I don't know if it's a problem of maturity, but for me, it's what we started with. The end customer is finally not willing to pay for it,
exactly.
And it requires like a change. For me, what we are leaning toward is actually the B2B ecosystem is changing faster than the consumption.
Yeah.
And for us, this is a trick. At the end, we cannot rely on the final customer to pay more for green because that will not happen on a sustainable basis. What we can rely on is the ecosystem to change to be able for sustainable products to be as competitive as non-sustainable product. And when this change happens, we will have a broader impact at scale across product categories. And for that, the B2B environment is key. Some have made commitments. The fact that you don't have a green premium yet means that some part of the value chain is still absorbing the cost somewhere or the margin somewhere. So it can happen for a certain period of time, but it will require more sustainable impact at some point that the economic equation become more sustainable for all the parts of the value chain. And this is why it's important to think long term. And in the long term, if we can rely on a steady state where sustainable products are as competitive because we change the metrics, because we have scale, because we have innovation and so on, then the final customer will not have to pay any premium for it.
Maybe just one point on that also is I think we need to stop thinking about just green premium. We need to think about what actual sustainable value do I want to charge a premium for? So what am I bringing to my customer that has a value for them that is sustainability related? The good news the news basically is that whatever is sustainable tends to have an increasing value because we're facing increasing constraints from delivering on decarbonation, or we're also facing increasing risks and exposure to the consequences of climate change. So whatever is more reliable, whatever consumes less is better. But we need to be able to promote that value to the end customers. And I agree with you in B2C. I mean, come back to your numbers, it's a minority of consumers that are willing to pay for something that is maybe a little bit less tangible than actual values such as optimized TCO or things like that. However, I totally agree that at least in our case, we have a B2C business as well, which is not driven by sustainability or sustainable product, but distributors are in a kind of competition to differentiate themselves by being able to offer sustainable, let's say, attributes and information around the products to enhance consumer experience. Even though we know, and that's based on the data we have on our products, that our sustainable products don't really necessarily overperform. So another thing we're doing is we've listed a number of environmental claims, or not only environmental, let's say sustainable claims. We have like close to 40 of them. And we're reviewing what value these claims have based on for a given product line on our French market, to assess basically not to move from, okay, this green is great, to this claim, let's say recycled material or energy efficiency potential or high level of compliance or whatever, has a given value for a given end market. And this enables us to refocus our efforts on what we need to put forward and where we need to work on our products so that we're able to sell better their sustainable value.
I would love to come back on what you mentioned about the retailers, because I think that's a very important point about ROI. Because we talked a lot about ROI. We have a dedicated course about like ROSI, so return on like sustainable investment. and I'm asking the question, I'm not saying it's true, but do you think that one reason we are not more advanced around sustainability is because the way we calculate ROI is not the right way? And again, looking at ROSI, so the return on sustainable investment, saying, and I'm sure you've seen that at Schneider, it's like when I invest in sustainability, I can either make more profit or more margin, but I can also, it could be also easier to hire talents or retain customers or access cheaper cost of capital. I mean, and I think we have a dedicated session with Tensi to talk about that, but she has like 9 different ways of additional value related to sustainability that I believe we miss when we look at just like, that's the price increase and that's how much money I'm making. I think it's not the full 360 view. So I don't know, I'm curious about your opinion on this one.
I can start if you want, but I think I think it's totally true. Focusing only on financial KPIs is not a good answer anymore. I think there are so many different KPIs that can be taken into account. Like, for example, our ROI in PricingHub is not only financial KPIs. When we're talking with our clients, we're obviously taking financial KPIs into account, but we also measure our ROI with our clients on productivity, so productivity gains, what they are able to do with the solution, and like how many hours they gain not working on price changes and stuff like that. And also on relevance, like being sure that the prices are relevant and they are billed correctly and everything. So this is focusing on how you decide about your prices. But when we talk about sustainability, obviously we want to have other KPIs taken into account. And I think what you talked just before on circularity and compliance and everything, those kind of KPIs are absolutely crucial to be taken into account in the new ROI system that should be done.
Yeah, working on it with some clients, I think we faced the challenge of, in the ROI, putting a value on risks. Because at some point, it's all about risk of not having access to the resource when it's an innovation product, so scarcity, having a fine from regulation when the regulation moving, you cannot meet the targets, such as the auto industry for next year. So all that is a risk. And what we found out is every company had a different way of putting a value on a risk. So it's very complex. This is not just a simple equation of, it's a espérance with a price and a probability of it. It's different from one company to another in the way they see it, in the way they value it, and so on. So it requires a bit understanding the mindset of the company, the ecosystem, and to put value on it. Second remark on that, you mentioned a lot of attributes on the return of sustainability. It's true. The financial attributes are very easy. Everybody knows the equation, so it's very simple. For me, from my experience, it's often a mistake to try to gather too much impact and gather here and there, because at the end, it blurs a bit the message. You cannot measure everything. So at the end, it becomes like a big mess for me, it's better to focus on one or two on top of the financial. So if in your industry, the main risk or the main challenge is, being access to some resource, so securing supply, this could be the metric you look at on top of the financial one. If it's access to people, or a brand image, because you spend a lot of marketing and so on, so brand reputation, this can be one of the KPI that you track. But be very targeted on what impact you expect from it, being able to measure it properly, because otherwise it will never be a good argument in front of your CFO. For me, that's the key message. So definitely, you should look outside of the financial pure KPI, but be targeted and something that you can measure very concretely.
Gabriel, any thoughts?
We
are not obliged.
No. I always have something to say. So Yeah, what I was going to say, at corporate level, I think companies like Schneider Electric, we've demonstrated, but we've seen the correlation between being a sustainable company and trying to do everything pretty much responsibly, from HR to environment to production and things like that, and our resilience, the strength of our brand and reputation and things like that. So at corporate level, and I think investors see it too, so I guess it's fine. And we don't necessarily need to go down into the detailed model of how this works. But when it comes down to product level and pricing, then this is where it gets complicated. And back to what I was saying, the way we're doing it now is trying to really focus on what attribute makes more sense for what market. And we're lucky enough to have an increasing amount of opportunities where we have very tangible drivers that are sustainability related. We talk about RE 2020, so that's the new building regulation. But we also have an increasing amount of EPR schemes in Europe, so extended producer responsibility, where we as a producer and seller on European markets, we are responsible for the end of life for our products, and we have to pay a given fee for every product we sell. And so that is creating a business case for improving the design of our products, because when they are more easily recyclable or upgradable or whatever, then we're able to pay less. And so these schemes, and they're driven by regulation, but they're creating business cases for us in order to, review the way that we're designing our products and also create the data, because that's a pity, but there's a lot of things we do for which we're not able to communicate properly to our clients or the regulator and get the full value from it. So yeah, I think if you focus and you dive precisely on what value you can get, you can end up generating this actual value at product level. But it's complicated.
Perfect. A huge thank you. I don't know if you have any, last thoughts to share with the audience or anything you would like to add on this topic.
It's just I finished with it's complicated, and I want to maybe review that statement, because it's complicated, yes, but it's worth it in the end. And if we take a step back and look at in the long run, I think sustainable companies will end up, it's being more sustainable in terms of their profitability, the way they operate, their license to operate. So it's good to go into the details and to try to figure out, to crack the equation at product level. But I think it also makes sense to be driven by, let's say higher values, because eventually, that's what I said, we see that it tends to work in the long run.
Yeah, and to finish as well on the positive mindset, I would say that two convictions from my end. The first one is sustainability and pricing are linked together very closely because of profitability. The second is sustainability is not a short-term matter, it's more strategic within the company. So for me, those two makes it a very good opportunity for pricing to earn a seat at the table on more strategic level and really trigger a change within companies on a more sustainable journey.
Aurélie?
I think everything was
said.
Yeah, perfectly said, and I do not have anything more to add.
Perfect. Well, a huge thank you for the audience. Thanks for your time and your commitment. As always, at the end of this day, we will have, additional webinars and material for you to, look at and study. So please continue to learn and to educate yourself about those critical topics. Funny enough, tomorrow we will talk about supply chain, because those past 3 days we talked about, green premium, new business model, market research, really like high level monetizing sustainability. One point, it's like when you exhausted all of those kind of like tools and ways of monetizing sustainability, you still have supply chain as a way actually to create like a cheaper green product or service. So we will talk about that tomorrow. Again, a huge thank you for your time and commitment, and hopefully we'll see each other tomorrow. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.